Hello, BC Federation of Labour. I understand it's been a while since the Premier came to visit. I want to acknowledge, of course, we're on the traditional territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations, and I want to say how happy I am to see so many faces, so many proud working people here from right across British Columbia. I have to apologize for all the hugging and kissing going on, but it just kind of has that feel about it, doesn't it? So it is truly great to be here at the 58th Convention of the BC Federation of Labour, and I want to recognize my friends Irene and Aaron for the work they've done, tireless work on behalf of all of you and the working people of British Columbia. I have to say, for whoever has the fortitude to replace Irene has to know how to salsa dance, because Irene and I cut a rug. It was at a regional conference, I think. And I need someone of a similar height, I think, to really make the dip work. And when I embraced Irene before I came to the microphone, I think her biggest fear was, he's going to dip me again, and this time he won't be able to hold me up. But I assure you that it was flawless at the time. And I think there's photographic evidence, and we really went all the way there. It was fantastic. Thank you, Irene, for that, and all of the work that you've done, and Aaron for the working people in this room. Have it up. So I have to acknowledge my sister-in-law, Shirley Ackland, who's in the back from FIPSI. And I hesitate to do that because I'd be acknowledging almost all of you because we have known each other for a long time. And it's because the party that I have the good fortune of being the leader of has always been a party of working people. We have worked together, Labour and the BC NDP, for common values of good jobs and better lives for our neighbours, ourselves, and all of the people that we represent. And I'm very proud of that relationship, and that's why I'm particularly excited. Although I have been on this stage before, talking to you, I've never been doing it as the 36th Premier of British Columbia, and I couldn't have done it without you. You missed. I want to say that again. I couldn't have done it without you. And every day I acknowledge that when I get up in the morning to try and make life better for British Columbians. I'm doing it because of the support that you gave me and the support that you give me and my colleagues each and every day. On the question of colleagues, I've got a whole heckin' pile of them back there. So have it up for the BC NDP caucus. There they are. Wow. It's a time to drink if ever there was one, right? Men and women from every corner of British Columbia, from the Kootenays, from the north, from the island, from right here in the lower mainland, British Columbians all, and we have, of course, in our cabinet 50% women, 50% men, which is something that we want to see in our caucus as well. And I have to say that Leonard Krogh, the newly elected mayor of Nanaimo, will be stepping down from his seat in the next number of days, and there will be a by-election in Nanaimo. Sheila Malcolmson, MP, will be our candidate, so don't book off too much time in January, because we're going to need you to be knocking on doors to make sure that we elect another spectacular woman on Vancouver Island. So all of you Islanders, take note. And all of those who like knocking on doors, well, we got a deal for you. We're going to have a lot of fun on the island, and ferry fares are frozen, so it won't cost you an additional amount to get there. Had we not formed government, that would have been difficult to do. But we have been working, all of us, in this room and outside of this room, to make life better for our friends, our colleagues in the workplace, and our families. And that starts by having an economy that works for everybody, not just those at the top, but everybody. And one of the things we're most proud of in our group is that we have been making sure that everyone is included. We're working with a cooperation model rather than a conflict model, and I think we're getting pretty exciting results. It's only been 16 months, but when we put up the 16 months of effort that we have had against the 16 years that you endured and experienced, I think we'll all agree that the comparison looks pretty good right now, that's for sure. In terms of what we've been doing on the economy, I think, and of course our whole plan when it comes to building a better BC can be summed up in 3 simple words: people, power, and place. When it comes to people, of course, that's our greatest strength. Everyone in this room knows that. The power of solidarity keeps us moving forward, forever trying to increase and advance the interests of working people. It is our greatest strength and our highest priority. When it comes to power, I think of the power of our economy, which again is all about people, and the energy that drives that economy. We have an abundance of clean energy in British Columbia, and it sets us apart from other jurisdictions in North America and, in fact, around the world. And as we drive towards a low-carbon future, our competitive advantage when it comes to power will set us apart from others and create more economic opportunity for working people in every corner of the province. And that takes us to place. People, power, and place. We all know that our ports are integral to our success as a country. And there you go. Longshore right up front. Yeah, you'll catch me if I fall. I'm really happy about that. But it is our ports and it is our place on the globe that sets us again apart from our brothers and sisters and friends across Canada. We are privileged to be here in British Columbia, where we have natural beauty, to be sure. We have an abundance of resources, absolutely. But again, even our place is defined by our people. And I spoke of the Musqueam and the Squamish and the Tsleil-Waututh and 200 other distinct nations of Indigenous people right across BC, which is also our strength and our advantage. Working together with Indigenous people in genuine reconciliation will transform British Columbia, and I'm very, very proud of the work we've done in a short period of time to make sure that when industrial activity happens on the land, when we're talking about growing as a province, we're talking about everyone. Indigenous people, non-Indigenous people, new Canadians, whoever you may be, it's all about us together. That's the power of the labor movement, and it is the power of a government that is, in its essence, about the values in this room. We share a common interest. We share a common interest in making life more affordable for ourselves and our families and our friends. And that's why Carol James introduced the largest single tax cut for the middle class when we began the elimination of medical services premiums in British Columbia, $1,800 a year for regular families. That's transformative, and that's exactly what we set out to do, to make life more affordable. We gave a raise to the lowest paid workers in British Columbia, and thanks to the Fight for 15 by the people in this room, our minimum wage will lead the country in 2021. We eliminated tolls on the Port Mann and Golden Ears Bridge. Anybody cross a bridge to get here? I have to say that I had the good fortune of visiting. I'm a bit of a science fiction geek. You might have heard about that. But I had the good fortune of visiting the set of Arrow. And that was cool. I got to see the stars and all of that. But what was really moving for me was the camera guys who said, hey, thanks for the tolls, man. I now am making more money today because I'm not paying to come to work. And it's little things that make a difference in people's lives. And we've been piling up those little things. It's medical services premiums. It's reducing costs through the largest investment ever in childcare in British Columbia, $1 billion over the next 3 years. And some childcare advocates over there in the gallery, way to go. And I want to pay tribute to our special Ks, Katrina Conroy and Katrina Chen, for the work that they've been doing to bring in universal, accessible, quality childcare in British Columbia. During the election campaign, oh good, that's another drink. Yeah. I just discovered a drinking game. It's just, you clap and I'll drink, that's good. I didn't know I was going to invent a drinking game today. That's nice. during the election campaign, wherever we went, we heard about two fundamental issues. We heard about childcare from young families, and we heard about the unaffordability of housing in British Columbia. And we're still hearing about that to this day. The former government ignored the problem, said it would go away, everything was going to be fine. The developers that funded the previous government thought everything was okay. What we knew, you knew, something was terribly, terribly wrong. And that's why over the next 10 years, we will invest $7 billion in affordable housing for people so that our communities can continue to be whole, not fractured, not empty, but whole. And that means some of the largest investments we've ever seen in BC. Now, we've been government for 16 months. And I don't know how many times people have come up to me and said, that's never happened before. Selena Robinson and I were at the nonprofit housing conference last week, 1,500 advocates who get up every day to try and build housing for people who don't have it or people who can't afford what they have. And the introduction was Shane Points from the Stolo Nation did the traditional greeting for the Indigenous communities, and he said, I do this every year, and I don't think there's ever been a premier here. And then immediately followed by the minister, and both Selena and I looked at each other and said, well, if you're in this to help people, why wouldn't you hang around with people? I don't get that. They seem to go together to me, and certainly that's the view that we have. And if you're building houses and creating childcare and reducing costs for people, they're going to help small businesses grow. They're going to be spending that extra money, not in tax havens in the Grand Caymans, but they're going to be spending it in your local communities, helping small businesses, helping people build futures and careers right here in BC. Childcare, housing, reducing costs for people. That's what it's all about, but there's a little bit more, and I got a list here. Hi, Brian. Hi, Val. I didn't get down that side. I'll go out that way. Lee Loftus is here. Says, go Shamrocks. Attaboy. Now there's grumbling from New Westminster. Very nice. Okay. But if people are at the center of your agenda, you got to focus on the services they need. And I'm so proud of the work that my friend Adrian Dix has been doing in healthcare, because he's building new hospitals. He's building new hospitals. He's building urgent care centers with a team-based approach to delivery of healthcare. More diagnostic services, more delivery of family care, taking stress off the people who work in our healthcare system by putting patients first. And I want to pause for a minute here. I had a whole bunch more to say about the services that we're providing in healthcare, but I think it deserves noting that I am so fortunate to have as my strongest allies and the biggest movers in our government Carol James and Adrian Dix. That's what we are all about. It's not about who's driving the bus. It's about all of us going in the same direction. So I lift my hands to both of them, and I know they have this unanimous support of everybody in this room. And I'm sorry to all the rest of you, because I'm not going to name you as the day goes on. Sorry, Judy. Sorry, George. And on it will go. I said George, so I got two there. That was the advantage of that. Chow and Heyman, if you're keeping score at home. So on healthcare, we're doing great things. And you've heard me say this. I'm looking at Brother Hansman over there. I have said for as long as I can remember that public education is the great equalizer in our society. If we're going to deal with inequality, we have to give our children and our young adults the skills that they need. So we've been making record investments in K-12 education and post-secondary education. 37 new teaching positions have been established, 1,000 more education assistants. We've eliminated fees for adult basic education. George, where are you? There you are over there. And English language learning. In a community that has been driven by new Canadians, language skills are critically important to individual success, they're important to community success, and they're fundamental to our economy. Removing barriers to people leads to success for people. And I'm very, very proud of the work we've been doing there, and particularly proud of one of the first things we did when we were sworn in. And I'm shouting out Melanie Mark now and Katrina Conroy. I might get through all of you before we're done. One of the first things we did was we followed the lead of Mary Ellen Chappelle-Lafon, the former Children and Youth Commissioner, who started a pilot project at Vancouver Island University to waive tuition fees for kids in care. When you age out at 19, oh, hang on, man, I'm not done. Hang on. We waived tuition fees for kids in care right across the province, and guess what happened? A 250% increase in kids who thought they had no hope, seeing opportunity for themselves. They're now entering skills training, they're entering post-secondary education, they're making a better life for themselves, and it costs us pennies to do that. Hope for people who had none. That's what the labor movement's been about. That's what the NDP is about. That's a drink. You should give me a thanks, Aaron. Thanks, man. So from trades training to tech, we're putting the next generation in a position to have good jobs and a rewarding career. We're giving people a chance to build themselves up and make a better life for themselves and their communities. And those are the choices that all British Columbians want to make. I've said many, many times since I became leader, you've probably heard this before, British Columbia is filled with New Democrats. They just don't know it yet. And more and more and more people are looking to the values in this room and the values in our NDP caucus, and they're seeing themselves. They're seeing themselves reflected in the diversity of our group. 7 South Asians in the legislature, 7 Chinese Canadians, Indigenous people, Filipinos, LGBT, everything in the community is now in our institutions because of the policies of the labor movement and the work of the BC NDP. Our institutions now look like our communities, and that will lead to success at the end of the day. If we focus on collaboration and hope rather than division, confrontation, and fear, there's nothing that we can't do, and I know that that is the core of everyone in this room, and that's why I'm so fiercely proud of the work that Harry Baines has done. I'm going to get through everybody. By restoring fairness in the labor code to make sure that WCB practices are in order and making sure that workers are at the center of those decisions, and fundamental employment standards that have been ignored for so long are now part and parcel of what we're doing in government. And at the core of that was a decision that we made very early on in our mandate, but we only implemented it this past week. And it was given royal assent. The Lieutenant Governor waved her hand over the bill, and it became a law. And that was the work of Adrian and our caucus and everyone in this room to repeal Bills 29 and Bill 94, to restore rights for workers in the healthcare unions. It was a dark time. It was a dark time. You'll all remember it, but it was particularly dark for 8,000 people, mostly women, who lost their jobs because of Bill 29. And it was a proud day when we stood with the 500,000 members of the BC Federation of Labour and said, we will undo this when given the opportunity. We did not assume it would take us 12 years to get there, but 12 years did not diminish our commitment to the HU and the men and women in that union. 12 years stiffened our resolve so that it was all the richer when we did it. Everyone deserves fairness in their workplace. And keeping the doors open for opportunity is exactly what we intend to do. I don't know how many weeks ago it was. Victor, when was your convention? Time means nothing to me anymore, by the way. I know it's Wednesday, right? 2 weeks ago, thanks, Denise. 2 weeks ago, it was a very, very proud time for all of us in the caucus and 600 assembled HEU members to celebrate the work of Joy McPhail and Jenny Kwan, who Joy came out of retirement to take the stage one more time. But remember that those two women stood against 77 people who were resolute to take away the rights of working people come hell or high water. And they stood fast, and people were sending them in arguments to make, but there were only 2 of them because of an old, outdated voting system that allowed just a little bit over 50% of the votes to have 97% of the seats. I think I'm segueing into a proportional representation pitch right now. And I didn't give you a disclaimer at the start. At about 1:55 today, what time is that? At 1:55 today, your phones are going to go off. And that's going to be a phone call from me urging you to vote for proportional representation. And make sure you get your ballots to an Elections BC office or a service. There you go. Good timing. PR's lit. PR is lit. You're all woke. You know that. So I don't think you need to use Canada Post if you choose not to. You've got every reason not to. But you can get your ballots to an Elections BC office or a Service Canada office in your community. And please, please, please vote to change our electoral system so that we don't have the specter of only two people standing up against a tyranny in a majority that wants to take away rights from people. Our system deserves better than that. Proportional representation is not complicated, people. It's not complicated. You're going to go to the same school, the same community hall. You're going to be given a list of names. You're going to look at them and say, I don't like any of these people. I'm voting for the NDP candidate. And you stick it in the box, and that's it. So don't worry about the complications. The BC Liberals had a leadership convention. You might have heard about it, maybe. I don't know. They had I was going to make a bad joke. Good thing you stopped me, Aaron. They had a leadership convention. They are saying today that the most important thing in their lives is to protect the first-past-the-post system, which, of course, they did not use during their leadership convention. They used a proportional representation system because it gets a better outcome. And I think that the reason that Andrew Wilkinson was screaming at me on the television the other day, you might have been watching Wheel of Fortune instead, but if those who did tune in, he was yelling at me for a half an hour because if he had used first past the post to become the leader of the Liberal Party, he would have come third. So I think we all now understand why it's the fight of their lives in Liberal land. It's the fight of their lives because they want to continue to have all the power with less than 50% of the votes. What we've been able to accomplish, brothers and sisters, working with our Green friends, working across the aisle with Liberals who have similar values to ours, and there are Liberals out there that do, you know that. Our system does not allow cooperation. It invites confrontation. Proportional representation gives people hope. It shouldn't be something to fear. So that's my last pitch. You got your calls at 1:55 as I predicted. So do the right thing. Which? The pro-rep is lit. I just said that. I'm woke. I got it. I got it. Okay. I had a really good speech planned out here. It had a narrative, and it had a beginning, a middle, and an end, as all my speeches do, Irene, as you know. But I have to finish with the people, the place, the power, because this is critically important. In the next number of days, George Heyman and I, there, got you in there, George, twice, are going to be laying out our climate action plan. We have ambitious goals to lead Canada. In fact, it'll be pretty easy now with things to the south of us, to lead North America with realistic efforts to reduce our climate pollution, and we're going to do that. You might remember in early October, we worked very, very hard with LNG Canada. They had a set of issues that they wanted to address, and we said, well, we're happy to talk to you if you're going to be creating jobs for British Columbians, if you're going to provide a return to the people of BC for accessing our resource, if you're going to work with Indigenous people to make sure they're full partners, and if you can fit within our climate plan, we welcome your investment, we welcome the jobs that will flow from that. And they took their pencils away and they did a little bit of writing, a little bit of scratching, and they came back and forth as a negotiation will go. We're in bargaining, I understand. Carol? We're in bargaining right now. I'm looking at the public sector unions, a vigorous nodding. So we negotiated. The Liberals, you'll recall, said that everyone was going to have an LNG plant. You're getting one, you're getting one, you're getting one. And we said, well, we certainly want to develop our natural resources. We want to make sure there's private sector investment to grow our economy. And we work to get the best deal possible for the people of BC. And I'm very proud to say that as a result of that work, and it involved all of us in government, it involved working with the Green Party to make sure that we could meet our climate objectives, we will see 10,000 construction jobs in northern British Columbia and 950 permanent jobs developing BC resources to make the world better by exporting those to reduce emissions elsewhere. But we're not going to take any credit for that because we can't. We're going to work hard by having things as we do with retrofits in our housing. We announced just 2 weeks ago 51,000 social housing units in British Columbia. Many of them are now becoming old and tired and they need refurbishment. Let's make them as clean and green as we possibly can, not just for the people who live in it, but to meet the targets that we're setting so that we can lead the country in climate action. Electric vehicles. We're all going to have one. Start thinking about electric vehicles. I think that's the heart of the issue in Oshawa and Ontario as brothers and sisters that work in the auto sector are looking at job losses. We need to make sure that in British Columbia we're gearing up for the change in a carbon-constrained economy by taking advantage of the opportunities. And because of where we are, and because of our clean, green energy, mostly hydroelectric, go move up, go IBW. There you go. Go move up. There you go, thank you. I need to drink a little bit, you gotta help me out here. Because of the plans that we'll be announcing, it's more opportunity, not less. It's taking advantage of where we are, our place on the west coast of North America, working with Washington, Oregon, and California, what's called the Pacific Coast Collaborative, to make sure that we, despite what's going on in Washington, D.C., despite what's going on in Ontario, we focus on what we can do here in British Columbia to make life better, to create more opportunity, to create more jobs, and take advantage, true advantage, of our place here on the west coast of Canada. That place is not just for us, it's of course the home of Indigenous people, and it has been for millennia. And if we are going to respect and justify genuine reconciliation, we need to work together. In the next couple of days, in fact, starting this evening, the NDP government will be meeting with Indigenous leaders called the Leaders Gathering. This will be the second one that we've had the opportunity to oversee as government. And we will be meeting with 203 Indigenous communities to plot the course forward on the land, to plot the course forward to protect the cultures and languages that have been here forever. And I'm very, very proud of the work that Scott Fraser, there you go, Scott, has been doing toward reconciliation. But this is not just about a couple of people talking to each other. It's about all of us recognizing and acknowledging extraordinary opportunity. Again, cooperation and working together always leads to better outcomes. Always, every time, unquestionable. Confrontation, conflict, and courts, apologies to any lawyers in the room, that leads to money wasted, that leads to opportunity missed, and we're not prepared to go down that road. We believe that genuine reconciliation and making sure that this place that we are so fiercely proud to be living in is here not just for this generation, but for generations to come. All of us, all of us. All of us need to continue to work together to build the British Columbia that we want to see. It's been 16 months and it has been a hell of a ride. My spouse Ellie has often asked, how's it going? And she kind of shrugs a little bit because she doesn't see me much. But for the past 16 months, I've been jumping out of bed every day to work with you and to work with people around British Columbia to lift up men and women, working people, to make lives better across the board. In the interminable 12 years that I was an opposition member, there were many days that I pulled the covers over my head and said, I don't want to do this today. I don't want to be miserable today, because I'm not a miserable guy. Happy Horgan. I'm a happy warrior, and I am proud to stand before you as the 36th Premier of British Columbia, and I will never forget all that you did to allow me this privilege. Thank you so much, Federation of Labour. Have a fantastic convention. You want me to try and get that?